Hi and welcome to Upsiders Information. In today's video, I will go over the upcoming new moon in Gemini at the end of Memorial Day, depending where you are, and I will go over the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. But first, let me do a quick recap from the previous prediction in light of the recent events. As I mentioned in my previous video, Pluto turning retrograde could have a change of trends that could affect the US economy. And in May, we had a big financial blow when Moody's downgraded the credit rating of the US dollar, making it the first time in over a century. And this was attributed to federal debt and fiscal deficits and prompted some investor anxiety, right in line with the full moon in Scorpio conjunct Uranus. And I have to confess that I eliminated the full moon videos as full moons are not nice and I don't want to be the prophet of doom. Even when viewers tend to engage more with negative news, and that might be the reason why we have so many. So since I'm committed to shed light into the darkness with these new moon videos, please support me by liking. It makes the difference between a channel surviving or otherwise. Anyway, I also mentioned in my last video that with benefic Jupiter in the 7th house of partnerships on the USA, Mars, which represents aggression and action, this could be a US expansion or alliances or with allies. And we recently had the president embark on a diplomatic tour to the Gulf region, securing significant economic agreements with the leaders from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. These deals, totaling over $1 trillion, includes investments in the U.S. technology, AI, energy, and infrastructure sectors. And Qatar agreed to purchase 210 Boeing jets, the largest order in the company history, in line with the recent Uranus-Sun conjunction and Jupiter approaching the last degrees of Gemini. Now, let's see what this new moon in Gemini has for us. As always, new moons are new beginnings that open up a portal for manifestation for about 6 months in line with the energies ruled by the sign they're in. And Gemini is an air sign that represents communication, travel, technology, AI, peers, reporting, etc. Gemini is thinking, is the twins, the two minds, the devil and the angel on each shoulder. And they're full of ideas. We are full of ideas. There's a lot of chatter, so the energy might be a little bit scattered with all this noise. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is Hermes, the planet of knowledge. Gnosis is the messenger of the gods. Is also the merchant planet, which rules mercantile interactions. And Mercury is in rulership in Gemini and is conjunct in this new moon. So this is positive, even though Mercury is combusted by the Sun and therefore its power is diminished. But by June 3rd will be Cassimi, meaning conjunct with the Sun, reactivating this energy. Now, this stellium is also in an intercepted conjunction with Uranus because it's out of sign, and Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, adding an extra layer of support to all Mercurial themes. Though with Uranus, there's always a surprise, and the unpredictable factor adds volatility to the equation. The good news is that with Uranus, it's not about what you fear, but about what you're not paying attention to. And it does so in a liberating way, in a I want to break free kind of way. Luckily, Uranus left the malefic algal degree behind and recently conjuncted the Sun, rocking the proverbial boat, but in a more positive fashion, making bigger waves by next month before it changes into Gemini also, and that's another kind of worms, but more on that later. Mercury will conjoin Uranus on Saturday, just previous to the new moon, bringing more shocking revelations. But this stellium of concentrated energy in Gemini is in a positive trine with transformational Pluto, the phoenix birth planet of death rebirth, in Aquarius, the sign of the collective, which is ruled by Uranus. And we should mention that often the unpredictable element is human nature. Now, Mercury, the ruler of the new moon and the only planet in rulership in the chart, and Pluto are in a grand sextile with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. This conjunction will perfect next year, but is also very unique. Not only that happens once every 36 years, but Saturn is been chasing Neptune and they get as close as they can without touching each other. This is what I call the dry hump conjunction. Because until they touch next year, they cannot manifest a new life. In the meantime, while Saturn is slow and steady, building the structure for a new life, in line with the ideas of this new moon, Neptune keeps up the faith and asks you to give it to God, because with the help of the divine, we can bring our dreams into manifestation. You see, Neptune is castles in the air and Saturn is foundations. So when you put a foundation to the castle in the air, now you have a castle on earth. But before we can manifest anything, it starts in the world of ideas, and this is what this new moon is all about. Now, Jupiter, the great benefic, is also in Gemini, though too far but witnessing the new moon, and though is in detriment in this placement, is almost at the 27th critical degree of Gemini. And it is at the bendings of the nodes of fate, meaning it is at a crossroads between past and future, assisting with the decision-making process before it reaches the 29th anaretic degree by next week, manifesting its energy to the maximum just before it makes itself at home in Cancer the following week, where we might start to feel a bit more relaxed finally, because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Now in the background, we have Venus representing what we want in detriment in Aries and conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. And this is putting ourselves first and assisting with self-care. And is in a flow with go-getter Mars in Leo. So we're meeting fire with fire here. There is no stopping us. On the bigger picture, this new moon stellium falls in the 6th house of the USA chart, and the 6th house is the house of routine, work, and is the healthcare sector, and is bringing more shocking news to the forefront, probably related with Big Pharma versus Maha, and Pluto helps reveal the skeletons in the closet, while Saturn and Neptune conjunct might bring accountability to the mainstream media, because Neptune is the mainstream media and Saturn brings accountability. On a happy note, Uranus had surprised the scientists as the sun has dramatically changed, the corona is disappearing, and the sunspots are collapsing by 50%. That hasn't happened while in solar maximum, as reported by geophysicist Stephen Burns. So I'm happy I was wrong with this one, but that's what happens with Uranus. You never really know how it's going to go. It's unpredictable. And it seems that some kind of higher intervention might have taken place here. On the markets, new moons are usually local tops, but depends on the bigger picture and how it affects each asset. On the bigger picture, we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and is on one hand expansion as per Neptune, on the other hand contraction as per Saturn. And this could result in stagflation, meaning some things go up, some things go down. And with money planet Venus approaching wounded Chiron, there is a corrective action in the markets and accountability, because that's what Chiron represents for the markets. Now, the bond market is scrambling, as we recently had a bond auction and no one showed up, so we bought our own debt, for which printing comes next, which will result in inflation right in line with Neptune in Aries. Though Saturn now in Aries too, for the time being, will constrain this inflation temporary. But it's always good to have deflationary assets with limited or fixed supplies like metals, bitcoins, XRP. And for Bitcoin, this new moon stellium falls in the 11th house, which is a financial house and a benefic house, and is in a positive flow with Bitcoin Gemini, Jupiter, and the North Node, and the benefics are in good aspects, though the malefics are in challenging aspects. And there are other mixed signals like challenges to the ruler of those houses from the new moon and outer planets too. So it's mostly benefic, for which it had recently soared and probably will consolidate sideways. Though for Ethereum, the new moon stellium falls in the 10th house of career, making a supportive trine with the Ethereum North Node and a sextile with Ethereum Sun, and with good aspects among the benefics favoring the asset. And we saw Ethereum rise too, which is what we really need for an alt season. So we might be in the brewing of a very much expected and delayed alt season finally, but we'll see. And XRP we have to chart, so it's unclear, but they both look good. And with the New York Stock Exchange for the markets, we have a stellium of planets transiting the 10th house of career and the 11th house of money that comes from career. Among them, there are rulers of the other financial houses and financial asteroids transiting those two, which is a positive indication for the markets, and yet malefic Mars is ill aspecting transformational Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. So it might indicate some fluctuations while some sectors go up and other sectors go down. And this is probably in line with the Jupiter changing signs from Gemini into Cancer by June 9, where it will be exalted and benefiting sectors related with home, like lumber and hospitality, though not longer travel, for example. Now, with metals, platinum has been rising as expected. Gold is in a momentary pullback as the economy starts to recover, but this one is for a long term anyway, so it might be a good entry point. And again, silver is scheduled to rise for the next year while Jupiter is in Cancer. But none of this is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is for entertainment purposes only. So if you're entertained, please like. If you like, share with your friends. Otherwise, share with your enemies, but share the love anyway. For real, it takes me more than a minute to make this for you and just a sec to like, so by all means. And if you need personal advice, that's where I can actually help you the most. My process is rather unique. I follow people in the intelligence community for fundamentals. I follow experts in technical analysis, and then I check the investors, insiders, and politician reporting, wealth activity, and I run the assets charts based on their IPO or the origination date or both. And finally, compare them with yours to give you a better picture. And still, there are no guarantees yet, better than the alternative if you're not in the know, meaning in the 1%. My link is below, and as always, be aware of scammers. I will never reach out to you. Thank you for your time. Namaste.